Hey, what is up guys, Marcy here, back to do another video, and I've got 3 games in this video. I know I've been posting videos with one single game in them, but I'm going to treat you all and I'm going to put 3 in this one, which will be mostly unedited, though I did rearrange the order of these games, but they were played in the same session. And this first game here will be on Tournament Highlands. It'll be versus Senna once again, and these games are pretty wild, guys. So much like my previous videos, this one will be no different. You can see strategies that you have not seen before. And hey, I would even like to hear comments and feedback from you all from these strategies that I'm showcasing, because there is room for me to improve them. And I'm not going to spoil the outcome. You guys may think that I'm going to win all these matches, but that may not be the case. I'm not going to spoil anything. Anyways, this game here is going to start off with me picking Vanilla Nod, and Senna will be the GDI faction. I forgot exactly what GDI it was. I believe it was Steel Talons. I can remember Talons being in this game. I mean, that's not really spoiling anything, is it, Titans? Because that's the main battle tank of Steel Talons. Arguably the weakest of the main battle tanks, which is kind of ironic because it is the heaviest armored, but it has a couple weaknesses, that being its speed and the fact that it takes a lot of rear damage, but I believe that was altered by CGF at one point, 1.2 plus, so they no longer take excessive amounts of rear damage. Or it may not have been that, it may have been the cannon damage weakness that they had. I think that was reduced. Nonetheless though, Titans are a little bit better in this, but still remain to be pretty weak. But in R20 the collision box was made smaller. It's actually a cylinder now. There's a couple types of geometry shapes that they use for collision, and cylinder is one of them. Box, cylinder and sphere. The box occupied too much space. Most of the walkers in this game were cylinders, and we basically changed the Titan from a box to a cylinder, which is how it can maneuver and be used in numbers more effectively. You can use them in a formation much better now. But a little bit of lag in this match. Of course, this is me commenting over these games, even though I am visually present in the video in the form of me in a webcam. This was taken from a live stream, but I do record my videos at 4K resolution locally, and I'm just commenting over these matches. Anyways guys, if there's anything that you want to see, any certain sort of strategies or games, then I would also like to hear feedback on that as well. I do have a couple of amazing ideas. Drive actually has given me a couple, even though Drive did announce that he made his retirement in Cybert's last video. I am still talking to him, and he had an interesting idea. I went for dozer blades on one base. I made Senna think that I'm going for flame tank, that's why he's spamming pitbulls. When in fact I just did a mind game and I went for dozer blade scorpion tanks. Dozer blades in this community patch grants the scorpion tanks 25% additional armor. So that's 10% more than it was. It's essentially the pre-nerf dozer blades, because dozer blades in Kane Draft 1.01 and Vanilla 1.0 had 25%. Then they reduced it in 1.02. But I think a lot of the balance decisions they made in 1.02 were incorrect. If my memory serves me right, it was the Medal of Honor developer team that were in charge of 1.02, and they had the name C&C Live. That was the name of the studio that made the 1.02 patch. Did not see life beyond that one patch. It was mostly just a stats patch. They didn't really fix any bugs. Nevertheless, didn't really like the changes they made in that. Pitbulls though versus scorpion tanks. Scorpion tanks will just about win out there, but yeah, Senna should be really transitioning into those times. But the thing is, going for pitbulls means it will give him that counter-attack potential. As you've noticed, I'm expanded to the bottom blue Tiberium field, which is pretty wild, isn't it? This is so I can deploy a frontline war factory and gather some of that blue Tiberium at the same time. Furthermore, I've sent another harvester to the top blue Tiberium field. So while I've got this map presence, I'm just going to go ahead and take some blue Tiberium at the top. I've got a war factory on the front line, sold off my original one. I'm a bit broke here, but this blue tip field is going to be really helpful. Having a refinery at the blue tip is a big deal. I'm going to bring in a lot of cash here. It's definitely worth the cost of the refinery. And in this patch, it's even more worthwhile because you get $700 for a refinery sale, assuming it's at full health. So I drop another tier 2, and this is primarily for quad turrets. I didn't really build it for anything aside from that. I'm going to base push with my AMCV so I can put down quad turret SAMs on the front line. That veteran Scorpion tank getting destroyed there, unfortunately. Hammerheads are out for center, and this is kind of where I wish I was Black Hand. Because if I'm Black Hand and I have a tier 2, I can build Mantis. Mantis are really great against those Hammerheads. But I've got my quad turrets online, AMCV moving forward. There's still blue Tiberium on that field. That one harvester is still going away, taking that blue tip. I can probably get about $10,000 worth of blue tip off this field. Plus, it's given me the option to move my AMCV to my opponent and put down these quad turret SAMs. I push in with my Scorpion tanks, hoping to draw in the Hammerheads. The first of my SAM turrets come down, and I'm going to put an air tower in the bottom here, just so that the mine drop Armageddon bomber spawns from the bottom of the map. The air tower placement determines where that bomber will spawn from. Wasn't the ideal result. I was hoping that those units would just drive into the minefields and I'd have a decisive engagement. I'm going to pull back to the defense of my AA. Those Hammerheads will be taken out. I've still got a lot of Scorpion tanks. I'm still continuing to make them. Looks like Senna built a couple of V35 Oxes to take over my tier spikes, but ran into those AA turrets. Not often you see that. It's Black Hand squad there on the front line, taking out that Guardian cannon. And now I'm just pushing into this base. Senna gets down refineries, so he's going to be expanding. There's a bunch of Titans out for him as well. He's got the AP ammo upgrade, and I've pushed in with my AMCV just so I can put down these AAs. But seeing all of these Titans now, I'm going to transition into infantry. And I've got a secondary AMCV as well, just in case I lose this one. I can use this AMCV to place down the Voice of Kane statue, of which in this patch you can build more than one. Unlike Black Hand, it's going to take a little bit longer to transition into infantry, because I do need to upgrade 2 upgrades, the Confessor upgrade and the Tiberium infusion. But this is kind of problematic here. There's no anti-infantry though for Senna, so he's going to be able to he's going to have to pull back there. Unfortunately for me, those Pipples did find an entrance in my base. I'm going to have to respond to that slowly with my Scorpion tanks, but these pits should not kill everything by the time I arrive there. I'm going to try and attack this force whilst this is all happening. One of my upgrades has completed. Probably should have got a Voice of Kane statue down before I lost my AMCV. Unfortunately, I did not. A AA turret and a Voice of Kane would have been just great there. I popped down a laser turret, kind of desperate. I got a comment in my last video asking me why do I never place tier 1 anti-vehicle defenses, and the reason is I'm never in a panic situation to place them, and I'd rather make units because it gives me more potential on the counter attack, whereas a static base defense you can't really attack your opponent with after defending. You're going to sell that off. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have a different decal around my war factory. You'll see more of that in the future games in this video, but yeah, the decal is different. I did make it in 4K. It's somewhat derived from C&C3, but I did remake that, and it's different. Has less glow on it, but at the same time, I think it's good for a change, at least as an option. I still prefer the one that came with Command & Conquer 3, but I wanted to see how that'd look in the 4K resolution. So my plan at this point would be to take a fight on this Tiberium field here with my army and try and get a Tiv Vane on his. So I'm going to try and get a cheap win here with this Tiberium Vane. I can also throw down the Redemption support power, which will spawn the cyborg infantry, which is going to make this infantry force even harder to stop. I'm going to start throwing down this EMP to start EMPing these watchtowers. A voice of Kane here would have been excellent, but I just don't have that. And now I'm in trouble because I don't have enough resources for this Tiv vein. I should have sold the refinery in hindsight at that point. Tiv vein does fire off, gets a lot of those Titans. A lot of those Titans surviving because of that armor that they have. Speak of that cannon damage resistance buff that I talked about. That was the reason why those Titans survived there. So you can imagine if they had not had that, that Tiv vein would have just killed all of those Titans. But I can see a lot of Titans that are ripe for taking out. And I have a plan here. My plan is to make 1 or 2 stealth tanks and try and kill all those Titans with my stealth tanks. Because look at all of them there. They're all low on health. They're like 1 rocket away from death. So with proper micro, I can probably farm a lot of XP with these stealth tanks. I'm going to go into this Titan force with my stealth tank. I'm going to try and get some XP with it. There's also a bunch of hammerheads too, so stealth tank is absolutely the way to go at this point in the game. Also researching the Tiberium core missiles, which is a very important upgrade at this stage. I don't want to reveal that I have stealth tanks just yet because he's just going to go back to base if not. He knows that I'm tier 3 because he did see that I Tiv veined him. So I can see a couple of hammer hits there. I'm going to go ahead and start targeting them down with these stealth tanks and then re-stealth. No tip core, which means these units are somewhat balanced. I do lose 1 of the stealth tanks, but that's a decent trade considering I destroy all the Titans. And that tip core upgrade just about to finish. Hammerheads will no longer be a threat. So despite that crazy opening, I'm still in this game. I've got the quad turret upgrade, so I'm going to be able to defend against these riflemen, which are quite pesky, because I'm building infantry out of my hand of Nod. So I want to make sure that these riflemen aren't spawn camping my rockets coming out of that hand of Nod. I've got 2 stealth tanks right there. I'm trying to micro from multiple fronts, frantically trying to place down these short turrets. And I think I lose 1 of my stealth tanks there, unfortunately. But a lot of those Titans are on low health. I'm going to start targeting those down right there. And I believe this stealth tank has already promoted to that veteran rank, going to elite. So as I mentioned, that was definitely the play. Another Titan falls, and you can kind of see where this game is going. Got an eco. It's a little bit weak, but I stabilize for now. I've got these missiles which are fully upgraded. A power plant randomly in the bottom of the map. There's a harvester there, which I used earlier for recon. This is a pretty insane game, this. There's also Tiberium at my original field, but it's been a while since that obviously was a thing. I'm going to get some repairs for my elite stealth tank. It's not heroic. So this stealth tank still is vulnerable. MCV moving to me now. Senna going to push in with that GDI MCV. There's a bunch of hammerheads, wolverines and titans heading all towards me. There's so many pipples as well. I need double A. Really what I should have done here was gone for a tier 2 and placed a double A turret. A double A turret or 2 would have been great at this point, but that's just so many pitballs. I think infantry is definitely the way to go en masse and just use the redemption power. So I think I really should have just sold my tier 3 and gone for nothing but rockets at this point. I don't need my tech center. As long as I can get a stealth tank to heroic, I can defend this off. But I feel like redemption power with that would have been the way to go. But here comes this attack, and I made a critical mistake. I should have been trying to get a heroic stealth tank before that happened. So this stealth tank is elite. I'm going to try and pick off some units on the edge. And I'm sure a turret gets taken out there. Refinery will be destroyed for me. And I no longer have the resources to build another refinery. I'm going to focus down on a Wolverine or 2. That goes down. And if I had not split my shots off between that Wolverine and 2 harvesters, I would have got 2 harvesters and the stealth tank would have gone heroic at that point. Unfortunately, not the case. Several watchtowers are being deployed here. But this stealth tank is so close to ranking up to that heroic rank. And Senna, he pulled back. He pulled back for some reason because he probably wants me to get this unit. So he's just playing with his food at this point. But I think it's a mistake against a stealth tank. So I'm going to move in once again. Just try and get enough funds for this refinery. I don't have any resources. I have a tip spike in the bottom left corner. So that's my only form of generating income. If I can get this ref down, I can then start spamming infantry again. So I'm not far off from recovering. And my stealth tank does go heroic. But unfortunately it was taken out there by those hammerheads. If that had not happened, considering his army there, I think I had a chance. It was not impossible with a heroic stealth tank. I could have got a refinery down, and that heroic stealth tank would have just cleaned up the rest. So that was a really, really close game. I was so gutted that that stealth tank did not go heroic sooner. I think I made 1 or 2 mistakes. If that had went heroic, that would have been GG. Nonetheless, I wanted to share that with you all because that's one of those games which could have been really, really epic if I had won. But I still feel like it was a great game, even if I didn't take it. So that's going to be the first of these games, and I hope you all enjoyed that one. Alright guys, and I am back to do the second game of this 3-game video. It's going to be on Tournament Dust Bowl. I'm going to be playing as the Vanilla Nod, and my opponent Senna will be down south as the Vanilla Scrin. So it's going to be a Scrin versus Nod. This game also stood out to me as also being a great game. Very unique. And there's a couple of techniques that I used in this video that you guys may find helpful. So this is going to be the regular old Tournament Dust Bowl, the only difference being that there is a type room spike in the top right corner instead of them being located in the center of the map. This is to avoid poker, where both players attempt to capture them at the start of the game, and if one player fails to do so and loses his or her engineers, then that is it. GG. In a similarly skilled game, there's really not much you can do to recover from that situation. The advantage usually does snowball. So when you see maps that say no poker, it's because that does not happen. The spikes were moved to a location that's nearer to the player's base, where they can be contested. I'm going for a bike rush this game. Not just 1 to scout, but I'm actually going to make more than 1. I'm going for 2, 3, 4, even 5 this game. So I'm going to start spamming those out. Because I didn't make any militant squads to scout, I'm going to have extra resources to get another bike out of my war factory. So you want to be conscious when you're making scouts early on. If you're rushing bikes, you may not have to scout with militants, because you're the one who's going to be rushing. Assuming you know your opponent's faction. If he's like a Scrin faction, you always got to be aware of the Descent Rush. Other than that though, if you're like versus GDI, then you don't really have to scout. Anti-scouting is a thing, but most players nowadays scout with a pitbull first, so going for bikes first means you can anti-scout the pitbull on the way and not lose a single bike in the process. So my goal here is not to kill a harvester, but to milk as much out of these bikes as possible with micro. And this is the gameplay I like the most in Kane's Draft. Not playing versus myself, as in not having to eco and make harvesters and refineries, but to be on the offensive as soon as possible and leverage my micro and play versus my opponent pretty much. So the earlier that happens, the more fun I have playing Kane's Wrath. And I started things off with a very aggressive strategy with these bikes. I've got 7 bikes, which is very atypical in a game of Kane's Wrath early on. It may look like an all-in, but because Senna has scouts in my base, he knows that there is no all-in on its way. Despite there being 3 Seekers, 7 bikes can easily take care of this. I'll lose 1 in the process, but with sufficient micro, I don't need to lose a single bike here. Some decent micro was shown there. I was able to split off those 3 which were already targeted and were 1 volley away from being destroyed by those Seekers, and I'm still going to keep up the pressure. I'm going to inflict as much damage onto Senna as possible. Even things like that, making his harvester be stalled for several seconds is good. That just delays him. And considering my position, not having a refinery on my expansion, I will want to retain all the forces I can. I did kill 3 Seekers, and I did delay that Harvester, but beyond that, I don't think neither of us are in an advantageous position. And while I said he was screwing at the start, he is actually Trial 59, because I did remember that I saw some advanced articulated disintegrators. But I did not even know that during the game. I assumed he was screwing vanilla. You can check your opponent's Seekers. I think your opponent's Seekers will even say that it has attenuated force fields or not. If you're unable to check the War Factory and you see a bunch of Seekers, then it will display the upgrades. There you see he's got the synth, so I was completely caught by this, and I'm in a terrible spot due to that. I'm starting to queue out these Raider buggies to deal with these descents. I need to place this Shredder turret down as well. I should power down that refinery on the right hand side and get that Shredder turret down. Refineries consume the most amount of power of any structure besides the tech structures, so those are ideal to power down before anything else. And I'm hoping to micro this one bike, this veteran. I've got a quest, and that is to try and rank this bike up to elite, because if I can't win through attrition, then I'm going to try and win with micro, trying to get this bike to heroic. But trying to macro and micro at the same time is very difficult, and whilst I was microing this bike, I forgot to queue units. Briefly, I forgot to make stuff, and that's bad because I'm floating lots of resources. But all is not lost just yet. I'm starting to spam units. I'm even queuing infantry because I really don't want to be floating resources, because he could have mechas behind this. So I've got this elite bike here. I'm trying to find some target that I can use it on, because it's a valuable unit for me. And he's got so many Seekers. If his micro is good, he can target that down. So I see one of those Seekers was split off on low health. I managed to snipe that with my bike, and there you see it has gone heroic, and that's going to allow my bike to clean up the rest of these units. It will fire twice as fast, and this Mechapede's even going to be killed by it. Bike almost gets taken out there by that Mechapede. But because it's such a low health unit, that attack bike, it will heal itself up pretty much instantaneously. I sell off the Shredder turret, no need for it anymore. I've got a lot of Raider buggies. That heroic bike is huge. I see Senna is long leeching Tiberium. He's probably dry out of Tiberium because those are leeching from that third field. And this drone ship, don't know where that's going, but that's going to be destroyed. Even if Senna had deployed it there, it takes 3 seconds to deploy a screen drone ship, so that would have been dead either way. There was no way that he could have saved that. So the drone ship does fall. Big mistake by Senna. And this gave me a false sense of security, because I don't see any units. I assumed he was dead. But then I saw all these Mechapedes, man. I was like, oh my god, holy crap. How am I going to kill all those? Bike buggy at that point doesn't do a whole lot versus mass mecha. And I know this from experience. I used to abuse Mechapedes really hard back in the day. I'm going to stealth these units with the cloaking field. That's an expensive support power, but I feel it's worthwhile, considering I have a few veteran and promoted units there. Another bike going to elite. I'm spamming avatars to deal with these Mechapedes. I built several beam cannons before my avatars just so I can equip them up and give them that dual beam. Avatars, if they're equipped with a beam cannon, they'll use the weapon that deals the most damage first, which is the beam cannon beam of the avatar. That deals 1200 damage, and the regular laser of the avatar does 900. So the first shot from the avatar will be of that beam cannon, which does affect the math when targeting Mechapedes. Because Mecha heads have 2800 health. So having that laser fire off first is a big deal. These bikes just unable to get the damage dealt on those Mechapedes. It's kind of awkward fighting in that city. I built an obelisk, but that's just not any use to me at the moment. I don't have resources. I tried to set up a refinery. These mecha are now just going to get on top of my avatars. I focused down one of those mechas. And unfortunately for me, this heroic bike will be sniped and taken out. It is being revealed by the Mecha-Peds. Mecha-Peds can reveal stealth in a small radius around themselves, and the remainder of the avatars will be falling. Look at all these Mecha-Peds, man. That is insane. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's at least 10 Mecha-Peds right there for Senna. And I'm in huge trouble. I've only got a single avatar, and you're probably wondering, Leaf, how do you come back from this? There's like 10 Mecha-Peds there, and there's no way that you can do it, right? Well, we'll see. I'm going to put down Obelisk and go start focusing down those Mecha-Peds. One shot is all it takes with an Obelisk of Light. He's not obviously going to go back into that area, so I'm going to sell off the Obelisk. That'll get me $1,000. So I can sell off Obelisk after killing one Mecha-Ped, and it's very cost effective because I get $1,000 plus I kill a Mecha-Ped that's worth, you know, more than double that. Stealth tanks is the name of the game for me at this point. I've got 2 stealth tanks, but that is very hard against mass mecha. 10, 12 Mecha-Peds versus 2 stealth tanks. I've never seen it being done before. So the micro has to be flawless when engaging these Mecha-Peds. I'm rotating my camera so I can expose the head of the Mecha-Ped easier. Otherwise it's very tricky to target those heads. I kill another 2 there with the Obelisk. That harvester will be forced to pull out of the refinery. Does get destroyed. Another 2 harvesters there which will dock in that refinery. I'm going to snipe another head here. I'm doing this very surgically, and he's going to push me into a corner. I'm going to focus that Mecha-Ped next to the war factory with that 1 stealth tank, and these 2 stealth tanks are going to get trapped in the corner, but I did a micro trick and I made these 2 stealth tanks go in opposite directions, just so in the worst case scenario I would lose only just one of them. But fortunately for me, both of the stealth tanks survive. An Obelisk comes down, snipes another Mecha-Ped, and these mecha numbers are falling. Another one of those Mecha-Peds falls. There is just 4, 5 left. I'm going to take out another one here. So just look at these stealth tanks. Look how effective they are against mechas. Much better than the Avatar. If Senna adds in a couple Seekers, he'll be able to handle the stealth tanks a lot easier. But I'm still in a dire position. But it's a lot fairer than it used to be. I had 10 mecha pieces here with like 1 or 2 stealth tanks, but now it's a lot easier for me to engage this. Still, 1 micro mistake is critical. I don't have the funds to rebuild my army. I am long leeching Tiberium on the left hand side. He has not sent anything over there to harass my harvesters. He's been doing the same thing. And as mentioned before, I'm rotating my camera so I can see those Mecha-Ped heads. Obelisk and stealth tanks, definitely the way to go against this unit. Otherwise it's very tricky. Even with a heroic bike, it just does not have the health to survive. I'm going to reclaim this Avatar Husk, which does have team color now in my game. You would have noticed that the Avatar has pink team color showing on it. That's bugged in vanilla and has been in 1.2 plus. I fixed that, but it's only available in the version I'm using right now. So this is tricky for Senna. He will probably want to go for Devastators, but since he lost his drone platform, he can only build Mecha-Peds and tripods. He didn't build a gravity stabilizer. That's probably something you should do as Skrin, as a backup option. But yeah, the last of these Mecha-Peds will be cleaned up by the Stealth Tank. Stealth Tank Elite. That is almost certainly going to go heroic. Another 2 mecha piece falls, and with that, Senna will call the GG, and that is going to be that. So despite that blunder with the bike buggy losing all those avatars, I still brought it back there with what I could say impressive stealth tank micro. So I hope you all enjoyed that game, and the last one is pretty short, but nonetheless I want to showcase it because it is pretty funny and rarely does it happen. So let's go on to that one now. Okay guys, this is the third and final game of this video. Hope you all enjoyed those 2 games there with the Mecha P's getting countered by the stealth tanks, and that first one with the insane build on Tournament Highlands. But this third game will bring us to Tournament Odyssey, a classic map. I guess you guys are probably getting sick of seeing the same maps, but this one here is just a classic. It plays very well in Kane's Wrath. And it's more or less balanced as well, so all the factions can win, and that's important. You don't want to make a map whose layout is too biased towards one faction or one specific playstyle. GDI have a huge advantage when it comes to maps that revolve around artillery wars in the late game. Though it could be said that it's a little less advantageous for GDI now because of the nerf to the Juggernaut in R20, where they deal 25% less damage to vehicles. So I'm going to be playing as the Steel Talons. Tournament Odyssey, Senna will be in the south. He's going to be playing as a Nod faction, and I've got that decal which I'm going to showcase. On my War Factory you can see it has some faint glow around it as well, but it makes a change, and I'm just showing it off here. It's one thing I like about Kane's Wrath and modding. You can change the visuals, most of it at least, and it won't desync the game. You can change skins, things like textures, even anything that's audio related. As long as it doesn't affect gameplay, you can change it in a mod. It won't desync the game. It's nice having that level of customization. You know, in a game nowadays, you'd be forced to pay for that, having the ability to customize your game. They would sell that as like a DLC or microtransaction. But this game I'm going to go for a rig rush, queuing my 4th harvester. But it's not just any old rig rush. Usually I go for an MRT and a Titan and then a rig. There's many different combinations of a rig rush, and I always cycle through them. Versus Might of Kane, my best bet would be to go for AP ammo. And just a rig is not going to cut it for me. I'm going to build an MRT as well. What does the MRT do? Well, it repairs structures for free. But I can also make it even better. I can augment its structure repairing capability with a combat engineer. If I put a combat engineer in this MRT, I can heal my rig up if needs be. If this rig takes damage going towards Senna's base, I can always just reverse it to my MRT and get some free repairs on that vehicle. Rigs repair much faster in their vehicle state than they do whilst deployed. So if you are out of combat and you need to repair your rig and you have an MRT nearby, then it's definitely worth packing it up. Obviously though, it does leave the rig more exposed, but it does get repaired for free. I need to be very cautious here because there could be a bunch of awakened squads which will EMP this rig, so I need to be very careful. Rig does deploy though. I start focusing down this Scorpion tank. The MRT can't repair because it was EMP'd, and I'm going to heal that rig up. Look how clutch that was. That rig was dead, man. Do you see that? That rig was dead, and that engineer got in there just as it was about to die. So that was huge. The rig is still taking huge damage though. This MRT is doing its best repairing the rig. It also stacks with the repair icon which I'm using. That does cost resources. And I've got these Wolverines now. There's one MRT and a bunch of Wolverines. Wolverines with AP ammo, extremely powerful. The reason I chose Wolverines was I can't get EMP'd by Awakened, and they do decently against armor. Senna's going for these Scorpion tanks, and as you can see, they're getting just shredded. I'm going to dump some mines in front of this War Factory. I made a unique decal in R20 for the mine drop. It's not showing the nod logo anymore for those GI APCs and Steel Talons MRTs. Behind this, I'm queuing a couple more MRTs. While it's not a rig, it's the next best thing to a rig. It just keeps this push going. I've got a nice force of units here, and I'm just focusing down these laser turrets. Laser turrets are falling. Even if Awakened Squad were to be drafted here, it would just get focused down immediately. Look at that there. Awakened Squad queued out of a hand of nod, just killed before it had the chance to even use its EMP. Radar giant missile fires off, but I think that's just a habit of Senna's. He is getting steamrolled here by all of these Wolverines. Harvester getting destroyed there whilst it is docking. Scorpion tanks going down. There's 3 left. There's a laser turret shielded behind that hand of nod. But this force is just not falling apart. These Wolverines are just killing everything, and that is going to be it. So I take that game only due to that rig and the clutch repair with the combat engineer, and that's the reason I wanted to highlight that one there, because I utilized the combat engineer to make that rig rush work. So that is going to be that, and I hope you all enjoyed this game, guys, and this video. And I'd like to thank everyone who has been watching. Thank you to all my patrons, and again, if you have anything to say about these videos, then do feel free to let me know down below in the comment section. Anyways, this is going to be Master Leaf. Peace out.